Welcome to the Profitpreneur Power Play podcast, your daily dose of strategies, insights, and action steps to grow your business and build your freedom. It's time to stop playing small and start making power plays.
All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our podcast. This is an exciting day. I'm just ready to jump into it, and you probably are too. So I want you to think about this. Have you ever noticed how you might start off really strong and then you're all excited, you're making progress, and then like clockwork, you hit that same wall, like that same plateau every single time? Well, today's guest is here to explain why that happens and, more importantly, how to finally break through it. So he is Dr. Bob Clark, a six-figure earner in both healthcare and online marketing, and a man who spent over 30 years in the healthcare field with cute little babies. I love it. Working in IVF labs. And then he retired from healthcare years ahead of schedule. And now he mentors entrepreneurs inside of his part-time prosperity tribe. So you definitely want to check that out too. Anyway, his topic for today is the consistency ceiling. Why you always stop at the same point. Because your problem isn't starting, it's sustaining. So let's bring Bob out. Hello.
Hey, Val, what's going on? Happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday. It's definitely Wednesday. So glad to have you on. All right. You ready to rock and roll?
I am ready. I'm like you. I'm really excited about this topic because it took me a long time to figure out this whole process of why we stop at the same time. So I'm excited to share with you guys what I got.
Awesome. All right. I'm head out.
All right, guys. What's going on? How's it going today? So like Val said, we all want to be consistent, right? That's our goal in our business, to be consistent, because we know the consistency, right, leads to momentum, which leads to results. We know that. And what I've found over the years, as Val said, is I found that for me, I always seem to drop off the consistency wagon at the same point. And for a long time, I didn't realize it. When I finally realized it, I'm like, okay, what's happening here? Like, and is it just me? So I started talking to some of my friends, my marketing buddies, and it seemed like, yeah, this is something that happens to everybody. So I started diving deeper into it and trying to figure out, like Val said, why it happens. But more importantly, what can you do about it to break that whole chain of events, right? So that's what we're going to do today, and I'm excited. So what about you? Have you noticed that you stop working your business at the same time, right? So you commit to doing something, you get all excited, you start doing it, and then you drop off, right? Maybe you start engaging with people in Facebook Messenger, right? You're sending messages back and forth, and you stop right at the point where the sales conversation is going to happen. Or you start a new strategy. Maybe you're all into Reels, Facebook Lives, YouTube Shorts, whatever it is. You start that, you're all excited about it, you go, and you're doing well, and then you quit right at the point where you get a little bit of traction. It happens. It happens to all of us. And for me, this is my story. And it's crazy when I go back and think about it. So like many of you guys, and maybe you guys are still in it, I started network marketing. And my idea was I wanted to build a team, and I wanted to have a great team, and I wanted to build all this passive income, recurring income, and had it all lined up for me. Found a great company that I loved, products that I loved. And what I realized was every time I went on a run where I really started buckling down and being very consistent in my reach outs, my connections, my follow-ups, my conversations. And eventually I started getting people on my team. And what I realized was as soon as I got 2 or 3 people on my team, I pulled back. I stopped. And eventually those people dropped off and I had to start all over again. And this went on for a while. And I think I drove my poor sponsor out of her mind. She's like, why are you doing this? I'm like, I don't know. Didn't even realize I was doing it, but here I am. Right? This is what is called your consistency ceiling. And I'm going to give you a very simple definition of it. It's the point where your progress starts to feel unsafe, unsustainable, or out of character. So your brain receives these messages and it pulls back to what it perceives as your normal. That's what it is. So what do I mean? Unsafe. What happens if this actually works? And that's what was happening to me when I started pulling back every time I started building a team. What happens if this actually works? Well, I had the time to support them. Could I support them? Do I even know what I'm doing? And so it feels unsafe, unsustainable. I can't possibly keep this up. What if I grow a team of hundreds? I can't possibly support them. I can't keep this up. Or number three, out of character, this doesn't feel like me, right? I feel like an imposter. Okay. So you think you're losing motivation, but what's really happening is you've hit the edge of your system that currently believes is safe. So you're getting out of your comfort zone into the unsafe and you pull back. It's very common, very common. So why? Why do we do this? Well, in my own life, I identified 3 root causes, and I think it's probably true for most people. Number one is fear of what comes next. This is a huge one. So in my case, when I started building a team, it became a fear of, like I said, can I support them? Do I have the knowledge? Do I know what I'm doing? Right? Will everything work for them like it's working for me? If not, will they get mad at me? Right? All this stuff. So it was a real fear of success, actually, which is a real thing. If I stay consistent, what does that mean? Does it mean more visibility, more people watching me, more questions I might not be able to answer, more expectations from my audience and my team that maybe I can't meet? So that's what happens here. It's a fear of what comes next. And your thoughts could be something like, what if I can't support a team if I actually grow this? Right? What if my customers ask questions I can't answer? What if people realize I'm not as successful as I look online? Ever feel that one? Yeah. So you tell yourself things as excuses, things like, I'm too busy. This is bad timing. I'll go hard again next month, but I need to pull back because of life. So a lot of your inconsistency is really just a fear of what happens next. Okay, so that's the first root cause. The second one is identity lag. Okay, identity lag. So you're doing things like an entrepreneur would, but inside you still feel like, I'm just trying to figure this out. I'm not a real marketer. I'm just a blank, right? Nurse, teacher, engineer, whatever you are, who dabbles online. I've heard people say that. So your thoughts are, I'm just dabbling, right? I'm just trying. Let's see where this goes. I'll see if this works. But you're doing these things that are like an entrepreneur, and it appears that way. And so there's an identity difference there, right? So when your actions exceed your identity, you hit a point where it feels like you're pretending. Ouch. So what happens? Your brain says, oh, you know what? This doesn't feel good. Let's slow it down. So life begins to feel like me again. Right? It always comes back to mindset, guys. It always comes back to mindset. Third root cause of this consistency ceiling is what I call a capacity mismatch, which is your plan versus real life. So here's what most of us do. Most of us get really excited, really enthusiastic, and we plan for much more than we could possibly deliver given our life circumstances. right? So I'm going to do a 2-hour morning routine. Well, that's a little hard when, if you're like me, you get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, you go to work, right? What are you going to do? Get up at 2 in the morning, right? So, but you plan it because you're all excited. I'm going to do that routine. I'm going to post 3 times a day. I'm going to do lives or stories or reels or whatever, 5 times a week. And you get all excited about it. And the reality is you got a full-time job, right? You've got responsibilities with your family, right? You've got limited energy at the end of your day. That's the reality. So the result is these expectations are way out of line. They're mismatched with your real life. So what happens? You burn out at the same point every time. You call it inconsistent, but really it is your plan is inconsistent with your life. That's really what's happening. So it's not that you can't be consistent in any of this. It's that you're setting unrealistic expectations. Your plan doesn't match your real life, right? So of course you're going to drop off. It's going to happen. But then we start the labels, right? I'm not consistent. I'm just not a consistent person. What a terrible thing to say about yourself. But I've heard people say it. I'm just not the type of person that can be consistent. Well, that's not true. We know that's not true. All right. So how does this consistency ceiling show up in real life? Well, it's like anything else. The first step to this is you got to recognize that it's happening. And for me, it literally took years to figure out this was happening. I just kept going into the same routine, right? Same pattern, back and forth. Start, get going strong, build a little team, fall back. That was my pattern. And I thought it was, I just don't know enough, or I just got to push harder. It's not what it is. It's here. It's here. All right. So how do you recognize your pattern? Well, you ask questions. Questions like, where do I usually fall off? Can I see a pattern here? So do I fall off after I start seeing some results? Do I fall off right before I invite people to buy? Is there a fear there? Do I fall off every time I get a negative comment to one of my posts? I'm guessing the answer to at least one of those questions is yes, because it is for all of us. It's a fear. All right. Next question you should ask. What am I telling myself right now? What's the thought in my head right before I drop off, right before I stop? So maybe you're saying something like, this is a lot. I'm not really sure I can keep it up. Or if I keep getting results, if this grows, I'm never going to have time for myself or my family. Or maybe you're saying something like, I don't really want people relying on me yet. Right? I'm not good enough yet for that. Or what if I can't answer their questions? That was a big one for me. I lived in fear of the question I couldn't answer, right, by someone, whether that was a team member or someone who's a lead, someone who's interested. I lived in fear of it until I realized it was okay to say, I don't know. I'll find out for you. That was a huge breakthrough for me. But until then, I lived in fear of that. All right. So where do I usually fall off? What am I telling myself right before I fall off? Okay. Those are the 2 questions you really want to ask yourself. That will shine a huge light on what's happening on your consistency ceiling. So what happens is, right, it becomes a vicious circle. Like I said before, for me, it was a vicious circle. You get a spark of motivation, you make a plan, and usually it's too big because you're excited. You start strong, right? And as you start to approach this next level line, whatever that is for you, the fear kicks in. What's going to happen next? The identity lag kicks in. The capacity panic kicks in, and you pull back. And you start reaching for a really good sounding excuse that will make you and other people feel better. I'm too busy, I'm too tired, whatever that is. And you fall back to normal. You fall back to where you were, your perception of normal. And then, just icing on the cake, you beat yourself up. You beat yourself up. And then you tell yourself, next time will be different. That's the cycle that you get into. That is the consistency ceiling. So I hope this is kind of related, kind of stuff you can relate to. Here's the real question. What can I do about it? Am I just bound to repeat this vicious cycle over and over, even if I know what's happening? Am I just going to repeat it? Is that what's going to happen? The answer is no. Here's a couple ways that you can start to break this pattern. The first one, it's going to sound weird, but you can make success feel safer. Make success feel safer, right? So this is a lot of inner work, a lot of inner talk. Ask yourself, what am I actually afraid will happen if this does work? Right? What am I really afraid of here? Am I afraid that I won't have time for myself or my family? Am I afraid that my spouse won't understand that I'm busier, that I can't do things with her or him? Am I afraid that people will expect more than I can deliver? What's the real thing happening? And then when you know that, you can decide some boundaries in advance, right? You can set specific time you're working on your business. After that, you put your phone away, right? When it's family time, you put your phone away. This will alleviate that fear of I won't have time for my family, right? Or make yourself safe by answering that question, right? Or living that fear of I won't be able to answer the question, right? Make that safer with, well, I can always answer with, I don't know the answer, but I'll find out for you. And then you find out. Boom, fear's gone. Fear's alleviated. So make yourself safer. Make success feel safer. Whatever's bothering you, try to rig up some guidelines or some boundaries for yourself to make that feel safer. That's really a huge one. And decide those boundaries in advance so you're ready for it when it happens, because it will happen. All right, second one, big one. Make your plan match your real life. Okay? I know you're excited. I know those people on your team or those people around you are going on a run, right? 30-day run. We're going to make this happen. Everybody has to fall in line here, right? I've experienced it. You've experienced it. The old we're going on a run thing. Well, maybe that doesn't match your life right now. Maybe you can't go on a 30-day run. Maybe you just can't do that. So you've got to make your own plan match your real life. Okay, replace all those fantasy plans with your present reality and ask yourself, what can I actually do? Here's a key. What can I actually do on my worst week? What can I actually do on my worst week? Because those are the weeks that kill your consistency, right? When life hits the fan, when things go sideways, where everything you had planned goes out the window. What can I do on those weeks? Because we all have them, right? Work goes crazy, illness, yourself or your family, right? Things happen and you just, it happens to all of us. So what I say is create a non-negotiable minimum, which means, okay, even on my worst weeks, I can do blank, right? I could send one email to my list. I can post twice a week. Even on my worst week, I could do that. I could send one invitation to watch my company presentation, even on my worst week. That's really important because now you have a plan for what happens, right? When the inevitable happens, right? When life goes sideways. So you're planning ahead for that time. So that when that week hits, your non-negotiable minimums kick in. Okay, this is a really bad week. Instead of posting 3 times a week, I'm going to post once. Or instead of one invitation a day. I'm going to do one invitation this week. It sounds crazy small. Like, what would that matter? But what it does is it stops you from completely stopping your business. And that's what happens to most people, right? During their crazy weeks, when everything happens in life, they pull back and they completely stop. And I'm sure Val would agree, it's way harder to get going again once you've stopped than if you still have a little bit of momentum going in doing something. It's way harder to get going when you stop. And then the third thing you can do is try to bring your identity up to speed with who you are. Okay, stop waiting for some magic income number to feel legitimate. Right? And how do you do that? Well, micro identity shifts, right? And it's what you're telling yourself. Instead of trying to convince yourself I'm a six-figure earner when you know you're not, right? Or I lead a huge team when you don't yet. Convince yourself that you're someone who shows up even on the imperfect days, or you're someone who follows through even on the small stuff, or you're someone who gets up back up faster than before. Right? I just wrote this email to my list, and it's so true. Entrepreneurs are not the people. No, let me say that again. Entrepreneurs, successful entrepreneurs, get knocked down just like everybody else. They have the bad weeks, right? They have those terrible days. Successful entrepreneurs are human, right? We all have those days. But successful entrepreneurs are the ones who get up faster. That's the big difference. You're looking for like this magic secret sauce of what success is. That's a huge success in every part of your life. Get knocked down? Sure. Get back up faster? Yes. It's a huge difference. All right. Here's your action steps. I've been going on too long about this. Step 1, identify your ceiling. Recognize your pattern. Ask yourself, where do I usually stop? Shine a light on that. And step 2 is make success feel safer for you, right? Ask yourself, what am I actually afraid of? And try to, ahead of time, rig some stuff up that will alleviate that fear. So you make it safer. And then the third part is create your non-negotiable minimum. So even on those days or those weeks where my life is out of control, I will do X and Y and Z. Your non-negotiable minimums. So that when it does happen, inevitably, when life gets in the way of your business, you fall back on your contingency plan, your minimums, and you engage those so you don't stop your business. Okay. Let me close with this. Your consistency ceiling is not set in stone. It's not set in cement. It isn't who you are. Your consistency ceiling is a signal. And once you understand it, you can raise that ceiling and you can do it intentionally. Today, I've given you some tools to do that. And if you use those tools, gradually you can increase that ceiling so that you're way more consistent than you were last week or last month or last year. And that's what it's all about, right? The gradual increase in doing things that matter most for our business. Okay. I'm done, Val. Come back in. Come save me. Oh no, where's Valerie? Here.
Stuff is stuck. Am I?
Where's Valerie? Oh no.
Am I here?
You're here.
Okay. Oh my gosh. Yeah, everything's been a little weird with the tech.
The tech gods are not shining on you this morning.
Not today, no. All right, Bob. Thank you so very much for this. I definitely have been through a lot of what you went over today. So you guys, especially when it comes to, as you're growing in success, it doesn't mean that life is all of a sudden. you got to figure this out. You got to keep going, So thank you so much for that.
You're welcome.
All right. So let's go ahead and close this out, because here's the truth. You don't stop because you're lazy or unmotivated or broken. You stop because you've reached your consistency ceiling. Okay. That point where your habits, your identity, your awareness, your systems no longer support the level that you're trying to reach. And the breakthrough actually happens when you build new rhythms, new routines, and new proof that you can, in fact, keep going even when it's not exciting anymore. Okay. So inside the Profitpreneur membership, we will help you to raise that ceiling with simple systems, consistent structure, and step-by-step support that keeps you moving forward long after motivation wears off. So go ahead and start that 14-day trial today. The link is in the description. And when you do, you'll be able to even connect with Bob inside the community. So just remember, when you raise your consistency ceiling, you get to raise your entire life. Exciting, right? So think on that, and then meet us back here again tomorrow. Same time, same channel. We look forward to seeing you. Thanks, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye.